Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be our welcome for the next hour. We have with us a really fun and special guest, Garrett Andritz. You were one of the booth guys at Compound Media, which is where this show got its start. And there's been a lot of buzzing and drama on the internet about Compound going under, and you're starting your own show. So I wanted to have you on both to talk about what the deal is with that and with the other thing, and to promote your show. So I'm glad to have a chance to talk with you.
Thanks for having me on, Michael. It's great to be here.
Um, so let's break this down. So for people who don't know, Compound Media, the flagship show was the Anthony Cumia show. He recently merged with Gavin McIngus's Censored.tv. So now they're
Correct.
calling it Compound Censored, right? Or Censored Compound.
Compound censored, yeah.
So my understanding is this happened really quickly, even though everyone saw it coming for a long time, and no one had any notice. Can you break down how you found out about this and what happened?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like you said, 2 or 3 years. Anthony lived in New York, and then he bought a house in South Carolina. And that house took an extra year to build or whatever. So we thought once he moves down there, it's going to be over. And he moved down there and kept doing the show. So we thought it was going to be fine. But they slowly got rid of Morning with Bill Schultz and Joanne Nochachinsky, and then he got rid of the Jameson show. So we were like, oh, I guess they just cut the fat or whatever, and they're going to keep the studio running. And then about 2 weeks ago, Gavin McInnes just comes in and fires us all.
Wait. So let's break this down. So wait, did he literally walk into the studio like a reverse Santa Claus and say, instead of presents, tell you you're all fired?
Yeah. Well, him and Anthony do a show every Wednesday,
Okay.
For a combo show. So he was in the studio already, and Anthony was still in South Carolina. They did the show, and he texted us before the show, big meeting today, everyone be there, kind of excited. So we were like, all right, I guess there's some news.
Wait, but you're going to be, I mean, you're going to be there anyway. It's your job. I don't,
Yeah.
right? It's not like, it's like, hey, make sure you're at work today. It's like, yeah. Right. Okay.
Well, I think he also texted Chrissy Mayer and Gino,
Okay.
who weren't there. So we were like, oh, I guess they're just going to announce the merger and tell us what's happening. And after the show, we tell Anthony, yeah, there's a meeting today. And he's like, what, today that's happening?
Wait, it was Gavin who texted you, not Anthony?
Gavin texted us, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, so he texted Gavin, it was like, hey, guys, big meeting, to make it seem exciting.
Yeah.
So Gavin sends the text, big meeting, like it's all exciting. Okay.
Anthony doesn't know it's happening. Then he's like, oh, it's happening today. I'll stick around. So Gavin comes back from the bathroom. I'm guessing he took a nervous shit or something because he was preparing for this. And he comes in the studio and he's like, so Compound and Censored are merging, and basically you're all fired.
Wait, hold on. So the thing with Gavin is he has this kind of trickster energy, right? And he's really good at saying really normal things in a fucked up way and really fucked up things in a normal way. So what was the vibe on his face? Did it seem like he was joking? Did he seem stern?
It seemed like he was excited to do this.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Did he actually say the words, you're all fired? Or was he like...
He literally said, so basically you're all fired. That was it. There was no couching it we're merging and we're going to do this or whatever and try to figure stuff out. It was just, you're all fired.
So let's take a step back. You were with Anthony from the beginning, right?
Since episode 50.
And when was that?
2014 in September.
Okay, so almost a decade of your life that you'll never get back. your prime Garrett years. I know. I'm not. I don't want. This is a touchy thing, but I have to ask. I know when shit went down with Opie and Anthony, right? When Anthony had that tweet, which he was really kind of canceled over, and everyone was dragging him through the coals over it, he was very upset, and I really don't blame him at all that Opie didn't stick his neck out for him. That Opie just basically threw him to the wolves, like it happened with Roseanne, with her show, and was like, you know what, like let the chips fall where they may. And he was like, dude, if you like stuck your neck out a little bit, like this didn't have to happen. So, I mean, is there not a sense that like it's kind of shitty that he didn't look out for you?
A little bit, but my theory is he wanted to shut it down like 3 or 4 years ago, but
Okay.
then like a year ago he had a heart attack. Like he bought a house, it wasn't working, he had to rebuild it, blah blah blah, so that wasted a year. Then last year he had a heart attack, so he was out again. So I think I got like 2 or 3 years of him having my back by paying us when he really wasn't making any money and keeping it alive.
Okay.
You
Um,
know,
what was the reaction in the room when Gavin said that?
people like at first didn't believe him, and then it was just, do you know Luby?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
for the
she
people who don't know, she was what was her position at Compound?
she was like sort of an intern, like a paid intern. She
Yeah,
would
yeah.
do anything extra kind of thing. And she was like, you're making a mistake because the show that I'm on now, Garrett and Steve, we started by filling in for Anthony when he had his heart attack. So he was out for like 4 or 5 months. We would fill in once or twice a week. And she was like, I get all the customer support and I do all the Twitter and I see everyone and they really like this show and these people, and you're making a mistake. And Gavin was like, well, if they want, they could like get a promo code and do their show on our site,
Okay.
But what would our promo code do? All our fans are already subscribed to Compound.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, right. Oh, so
You know,
okay, yeah. So yeah, I see what they're. So you're gonna have to audition for a gig that you had already, basically.
yes, yeah.
Um, I mean, I know you like you're a married man, and New York City rent's not cheap. I mean,
Hmm.
was this something that kind of freaked you out?
Yeah, kind of. Luckily, we're on a rent stabilized apartment.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
lucky.
So, ours only goes up like 2 or 3% every year or every other year. So that wasn't that bad. And I had some savings and things like that. And also, I was like, I'm getting sick of living in New York. So maybe this is a way to get out, you know, get the bright side of it type of thing.
Yeah. So did they give you any severance?
Not a penny.
Really?
Yeah. Not even like, here's an extra month of salary or something. Nothing.
I think that's shitty. I'm sorry.
I,
Like
I
I
know.
like I will always like my time, love my time at Compound. I
Me
always
too.
speak highly of it. I speak highly of Anthony,
Yeah.
even when people are turning their backs on him, and I think that's shitty.
Me too. Yeah. I'm not sure if like they didn't even think about it because, Anthony didn't even know it was happening when it was happening. And then the last day of the studio, no one knew. Gavin or Anthony didn't know it was the last day of Compound. Like we had to tell Anthony before the show so he could say something. It
Wait, what
was
do you mean he didn't? What do you mean he didn't know?
like that day we got fired. Gavin
It's a
was
Wednesday,
like,
right?
the Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah.
Gavin was like, this is your 2 week notice, which was kind of weird seeing like punk Gavin saying these corporate words, kind of thing.
Sure.
And we had already had a scheduled vacation for the July 4th week. So that was the next week. So we did the 1 week after the firing, and that was the last week. And then the next week we were going to be off. And Anthony didn't realize that we were going to be off and didn't understand that that was actually the last show on the network.
Okay. Have you talked to him since?
I've talked to him like after the show, after that, the firing and stuff.
Wait, so he was in that meeting. He was there, like
He was
remotely.
there. Hmm.
What was his reaction?
His reaction was he feels really bad, but he had started having to shell out his own money like
Okay.
every 3 months to try to keep it alive. And he just didn't want to do it, couldn't do it or didn't want to do it anymore.
Okay.
And he kind of just blamed the economy and people aren't subscribing to things as much as they are and, all that stuff. He blamed it on Biden.
Is this so? This is the one thing he didn't blame on minorities. This is the first thing I saw a tweet of his, where it's some like really like cracked out white chick, and she's like in 7-Eleven, and she's like in a bikini and just like a complete hot mess, like just like I think it was just in Seattle or Portland, and I can't even say the word, but he's like, she's been enfied, and I'm like, how is it the fault of black people, but it's a white girl in a white city?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about
It's
too.
just
Yeah.
like I don't get like even this is white trash which exists, and still it's
Mm-hmm.
somehow it's not her fault. I was like, wow, okay, like he's really gone down. He's really committed to this bit.
Yeah, he could blame it any way. He could
Yeah,
find a way to blame them anytime.
thumbtacks and string.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, so but Chrissy and Gino, they're not fired
They're not fired. We were told that they're the two shows that were making money, which I don't understand.
in hot
How,
water.
I don't understand how you could figure that out.
Right.
Because there's just subscribers and they get all the shows in the network. It's not like there's a promo code for Compound or anything like that. So that's what we were told, and they start their shows, I think, today,
Wait, so I
uncensored.
mean, maybe we're naive, and Chrissy and Gino paid Anthony to have shows, so that's why. So that's how they're making.
Maybe. No, I would say like they were the ones getting paid to do their shows.
Of
So
course,
like
yeah.
I don't know how they were making money, but
Folks, I had stomach issues my entire life, and I've been talking about this for years. It was by taking probiotics that I became a normal human being, something I thought well, in this context at least, something I thought I could never be. So I am delighted to talk to you about Just Thrive, which is a product that not only I'm using, but is an issue that has affected me profoundly and has changed profoundly for the better. Life can be stressful, and it's not just your mind that suffers when you're tense and anxious, because stress can make a mess of your digestion and immune system too. And you can handle it with the help of Just Thrive Probiotic and Just Calm. Say goodbye to frazzled nerves. Say hello to a steady, chill, more relaxed you. So Just Calm's exclusive mood lifting blend is clinically proven to help you relax and breathe a little easier in as little as 4 weeks. And for the next level mood and immune support, use Just Thrive Probiotic, which is award winning. It not only has 1,000 times better survivability than most probiotics, but this spore probiotic banishes bloat and constipation, so your gut can produce more of serotonin, which is the happy hormone. And ask yourself, if these probiotics that you see at the store have to be refrigerated, how can that probiotic survive your 98-degree body if it can't stand room temperature? Doesn't make sense. So with Just Calm and Just Thrive's probiotic, you'll have the ultimate stress-fighting duo to help you win the day every day. And with a money-back guarantee, what do you have to lose? And for a limited time, you can save 20% off site-wide at justthrivehealth.com with promo code WELCOME. And to learn more about Just Thrive Health and all their clinically backed products, don't miss my special episode where I interviewed Tina Anderson, who is the CEO and co-founder. Take control today with Just Thrive. Let's get back to the show. So, I mean, how are you? Look, I know you and Steve launched your own show. What's the URL for that in the Patreon?
Patreon.com/Garrett and Steve.
So Garrett has 2 R's and 2 T's.
Correct.
I mean, that's quite a. You're not going to be able to, get a show going and have it be lucrative off the bat. It takes time to build an audience, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, are you like looking for work otherwise?
Not yet, because we got paid up until the 4th of July. So I
Okay.
couldn't even like apply for unemployment or anything. I want to get all that stuff rolling and then try to get this Garrett and Steve thing going. And hopefully it makes enough money to support us, or maybe I just have to get a part-time job or something. But my problem is, like, I had a specific skill for Anthony's show, and I don't really know other live shows that like talk to their producer, or have their producer contribute to the show and stuff. So I don't even know where to apply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This sounds awful. I'm not trying to be mean, but like
No,
that's
I
why I wanted
know.
to have you on. I'm just like, man, my man Garrett's being left out to dry.
And like the radio world is dead already. Like
Right.
4 months ago, tons of people got fired from iHeartRadio, and
Is that true?
yeah, and I forget the other, like RJ Radio or something like that. Eastside Dave, who was also on the Anthony Cumia show, he lost his regular radio job just recently. So there's not even radio jobs out there. So yeah, I don't know.
Oh my gosh. So are you going to be like a housewife?
Maybe, possibly. If my wife can make a little bit more salary, I'm sure she'd be fine with it.
Well, you're going to have to kind of, shake that bitch and be like, come on, Garrett needs to eat. Um, have you kept in touch with John, who was the former booth guy?
No, not specifically, and yeah, not since he got fired a while ago.
Okay, okay. I I mean, what are like? Is this the kind of thing where you had some time to mull this over? Is there anything that you kind of looking back at you like? Do you regret maybe like not leaving earlier, or like what's going through? Like, what are your thoughts? When you this is I'm sorry, I'm not. I know this is a big word, but if something is your job for 10 years, then you lose it overnight, it's kind of traumatic because it's kind of like like we're not spring chickens, right? So it's like, who am I? What am I going to do with my time? It's not easy to make that transition for
No.
anybody.
I mean, I've been seriously depressed the last 2 or 3 weeks. I just don't know what to do. I feel aimless. Like
Yeah.
you bring up in your interviews all the time, like human beings are status seekers, and I lost all my status.
Well, I
You
mean, in all fairness,
I, to
that's like
me, it was
it's like
important. To some
it's like
people, it
throwing out a
was.
clan robe. It's
I
it's like,
know.
yeah, I don't have the nice clothes, but is it really?
That's the one positive I'm trying to get out of this is I get away from, for lack of a better word, the negativity around Compound.
Okay, sure.
So I get that off my back, I guess. But I didn't even really mind it.
Right.
But having the, like, my family doesn't watch Compound. They wouldn't like Compound. Most of the people in my life aren't that way, or raunchy humor and that stuff. So I don't have to like try to defend my show, the place I work and things like that. But I didn't mind either way.
Have you tried reaching out to Opie?
I would, but he gets like 300 views on his videos. I can't.
All right, so you haven't left Compound yet. Do you know anything about Censor? Do they have like a big audience? I feel like Gavin, they've done a good job of marginalizing Gavin and kind of like making him radioactive.
Yeah, I assume they have more subscribers than Compound did, because Compound went through 3 or 4 huge subscriber mishaps where like they switched service providers or the billing provider. And what that did is made all the recurring bills not recur anymore. People had to re-sign up. So all the people that were just paying, that weren't really watching or weren't paying attention, all of a sudden they just got cut off and didn't have to pay anymore. And they didn't come back. So they
Oh,
lost
wow.
like millions of dollars in subscriptions just from, and then, there was another time where PayPal would didn't stop taking payments for some reason. They had to verify something, so they lost all that money. So Censored has more subscribers than Compound, I would believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the response? Did anyone say anything when Gavin told everyone they were fired?
Just like Luby stood up for us, and then my partner Steve tried to come up. He even admits he was like a whiny bitch, and he was trying to come up with solutions. and stuff. It was like, well, what if you get rid of the studio and then that saves money and maybe we could keep some of our, and Gavin, their mind was already set. They had this all in motion and were just ripping off the Band-Aid. There was no coming back. And Luby defended us. And at one point, Gavin goes, the least important person here is talking the most.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It was strange, just like how nonchalant they were about ruining our lives, pretty much.
Um, in all fairness, and I know you're going to agree with this, there's no way Anthony was nonchalant about it. Anthony's
No,
just extremely
no,
non-confrontational. He
yes.
can't handle it. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that this isn't something, and I know you're not saying that either. That
No.
Anthony was nonchalant about it. Like I don't want to have that be the implication floating out here. In fact, it's really funny because I remember I was on Anthony's show, and this I would, for lack of a better term, mentally handicapped former baseball player called in. What was the guy's name?
Lenny Dykstra?
Was it Lenny Dykstra?
Oh, no, it was Aubrey Huff.
Aubrey Huff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts talking this
Boomerish.
Boomer Alex Jones. So I'm friends
Yeah.
with Alex, and Alex is really bright, and he has all like even if the things you're saying, if even if what he's saying isn't um correct, it's adjacent to, it's based on something. Like you go pull up an article and it's like, okay, this is where he's getting it from. And Aubrey was just going on about how the vaccine is designed to like sterilize poor people. And it's gonna kick in 20 years. And I'm like, all right, let's break this down. I wasn't like, oh, you're crazy, the vaccine's great. I'm like, let's just look at it on your terms, because that's how you have to deconstruct these things. It's like rich people are taking high proportions than poor people. So if their plan is, just for
Yes.
poor people to get it, it's not working. The rollout is not accomplishing that goal, number one. And number two is like, how do you know this is going to kick in like 20 years? Like what is your basis on this? Like why are they waiting? Why not have it be sterilized in 5 years? And he had no answers. And he's just like, well, you couldn't put anything past these people. And I'm like, yes, that's true. I'm not putting anything past these people. I'm just saying still, why are the wealthy people taking it, not the poor people, per your hypothesis? And Anthony was just sitting there like squirming, and he's trying to make Aubrey sound not crazy, and I'm pushing him, and I knew it was making him uncomfortable because I could see in his face, and he's
Yeah.
trying not to have the guest feel uncomfortable, and he was doing a really bad job because what can you say? And it was funny because then after Aubrey hung up, I talked to Anthony, and he's just like, I hate that shit. Like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, he's totally for it once the uncomfortability is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also he admitted that he just felt excruciatingly. So the thing with Anthony, what people don't realize, is it's a lot like watching an episode of The Office, the British one, that if things get awkward, he really can't handle it. And it's a big
Totally.
Achilles heel, and it's really, really fun to push that button with him, because for someone who's such a loudmouth, and who's been like kind of pushing the envelope for so long, this is the one thing he can't handle, and it's really kind of endearing.
And I want to make it clear, like, I owe everything to Anthony. I don't hold anything against him. He had to do, he was spending money that he didn't want to spend. I totally get it. He gave me like the best job I ever had, I ever will have. It was like I had my retirement years, those 10 years. I just went to a clubhouse and hung out with my friends for 8 to 10 hours a day and laughed the whole time. And then we could drink, we could smoke, we could do whatever we wanted. It was a great time. And I'm just like sore that it's ended this way.
Did you and Steve have and Christy and Gino have a contentious relationship with Gavin?
No, I was a huge fan of Gavin. I really like Gavin. He was on Compound 7 or 8 years ago. He started the Proud Boys on Compound,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So I produced his show in the morning, and I like Gavin. He's so clever and has such unique ideas and all that stuff. And I was a fan of him. And I was you know, the word around Compound was, oh, we're all getting fired, but Anthony's going to keep Garrett. And I was like, all right, I didn't wasn't sure that was going to happen, but yeah, I mean that'd be fine with me. You know, I like working with Gavin, but now I can't stand the sight of him.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah. It's,
Yeah.
he it's what people don't, I think Gavin is one of the funniest people I have ever met,
Hmm.
and the reason I can say this, I was at Anthony was having a party, and I was there, and Gavin was there, and Gavin there was a group of us talking, and Gavin told the group a story that I had told him, and when Gavin told my story, it was actually funnier than when I told it, and I'm like, "Okay, this is talent." Like, when someone can take my own story and when they tell it, it's better, like, this person has a gift that I don't. But he also has, um, uh, uh, like, for lack and he's also been, like, such a cultural innovator, like, even people who hate him can't deny that the impact he's had on the culture is, enormous, but he's also, like, burned a lot of bridges, in his wake, and it's kind of, for me, unfortunate to see that as someone who thinks of him as such a talented person.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. He like I always say, he got fired from a lot of prominent jobs like Vice and some advertising firm that was really, and he like 4 or 5 jobs he got fired from, and he got it all back on that one Wednesday when he came in and fired 4 or 5 of us. Like it
Yeah.
was almost like he was geared up to do this, and excited. It was strange.
The thing that one of the reasons I don't drink
Hmm.
is when I drink, I say this and it's a funny line, but it's true. I say, I don't drink because when I drink, I get meaner. And then people are like, "Oh, come on, come on." And my other friends like, "No, no, you don't want this. This isn't like Simpsons mean. This is like mean mean."
Uh huh.
And that line that he said to Luby is a perfect example of what I'm like when I'm drunk. 'Cause that line is
Mm.
really, really funny. Like, if this was on a
Yes,
show if this was on a TV show, like, The Office, and
correct.
it wouldn't be Michael Scott because he would never say something like that. Angela is like, "Oh, it's interesting. The person who's the least important is the one who's talking the most." That's a hilarious line.
Totally.
But
You're
when
100% correct.
right, but when it's in real life to someone's
Uh
face,
huh.
someone who is, an intern, it's really still funny, like, outside the context, but it's also extremely cruel.
Yeah, totally. And then the next week on that Wednesday, he was back in the studio with Anthony and they did their show. And then we told them this was tomorrow. The next day was going to be the last day on Compound. And he was talking to us about that. Then he comes in and goes, boy, Luby was really yapping up in the meeting, huh? She's the reason why this is happening. And it was like, we're not on your side. We're not going to commiserate with you over Luby, who was like she maybe got $300 a week. She got paid like 15 hours a week or something like that. She was
Wow.
not the reason Compound was going down. The
So,
reason Compound was going down was they made deals with service providers that were like 3 times the amount that Censored has to pay for their service providers and
right.
things like that. Yeah.
Wait, so what was her reaction when he said that?
She wasn't there. Like he was just like,
No, no, when he said
commiserating
it to
with
her
us.
face the first time.
Oh, she took it like a pro. She was just like, like I'm just here to, I don't care if I'm fired. I'm just trying to protect Garrett and Steve because I think you're making a mistake. Like she was 100% a trooper for us. It was amazing.
Yeah, those Eastern European women are tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I come out of one of them. So yeah, that's okay. So looking back, what were some of your favorite moments, at Compound? There's so much. Good Lord.
There's so many. I know. Um, the one that pops to mind first was, uh, do you know Kevin Brennan, but I'm not
Of
sure
course.
your audience does. A
Yes.
comedian who used to have a show on Compound, and then there was a big fight, or he left, or whatever, and then he started coming back on Anthony's show every Wednesday, and he had a huge beef with Gino, and it just grew to something. I don't even who knows why, and they were on air Kevin and Anthony, and Gino walked in the studio like behind the scenes and flipped, made Kevin mad. And Kevin started yelling at Gino, blah, 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 screaming, getting up, and you want to fight, trying to come in the booth where Gino was. And someone had to try to hold the door so Kevin couldn't break in. And Kevin finally gets so mad, storms out of the studio and slams the door, slammed it so hard the power went out from the whole office. Like, it must have been an amazing feeling for him. Like, he was so mad. He went boom, and the second it closed, it went and
Like
everything
Zeus.
went dark. The power cord to the main circuit breaker got disconnected. Like,
Holy
that's how
shit.
hard he slammed the door. And then they went to Instagram and started live streaming in the dark from the studio, saying what happened and all that stuff. So that was like a fun, exciting moment. Then there were also moments where, like,
Wait, wasn't there someone who threw like one of the monitors and everyone thought it was a bit, but it wasn't a bit?
no, on the East Side Dave show, East Side Dave was making fun of one of his producers that started doing comedy,
Yeah.
and he said something. The guy was like, "Say it again, I'm coming after you." And Dave said it again, and the guy rushed toward Dave and took the desk and flipped it toward
Yeah,
Dave,
yeah.
and it crashed. Yeah, yeah.
And
That
that
was
wasn't
another
a
one.
bit. People thought it was a bit. It was not.
That was not a bit, no.
Folks, homes.com knows that when it comes to home shopping, it's never just about the house or condo. It's about the home. And what makes a home is more than just the house or property. It's the location and the neighborhood. If you have kids, it's also schools, nearby parks, transportation options. That's why homes.com goes above and beyond to bring home shoppers the in-depth information they need to find the right home. And when I say in-depth, I'm talking deep. Each listing features comprehensive information about the neighborhood, complete with a video guide. They also have details about local schools with test scores, state rankings, and student to teacher ratio. They even have an agent directory with the sales history of each agent. So, when it comes to finding a home, not just a house, this is everything you need to know all in one place. Homes.com. We've done your homework. Let's get back to the show. Wait, so let's talk a little bit. So, for people who don't know the drama at Compound, there was an incident a couple of years ago at this point where apparently Gino Visconti, who hosts in Hot Water, who I like a lot.
Yes.
He was at the bar and he'd been running his mouth about Pat Dixon, who had a host, a show on Compound called what was this show called? I'm sorry.
New York City Crime Report.
Yeah, quick and Crime Report. Yeah,
Mhm.
and Pat went across the street, and Gino's like, "Hey, Pat." And Pat just walks up to him and cracks him in the jaw, and I think like actually did like some actual damage that required like dental work.
Yeah.
Anthony had to fire Pat, right?
Hmm.
Gavin scooped him up, but
Yeah.
not you. And now they're both going to be working together.
Yeah. That was brought up during the meeting too. Like,
Well, how was that brought up?
Because Gino was there, and they were like, Gavin said he's keeping Gino's show, and then just like, I don't know, Drew said it or something, but they were like, "Up now, you and Pat are back under the same roof again."
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, but that all started when Gino was out for some reason, and this comedian Bob Levy was hosting In Hot Water, which is Gino's show, and Pat Dixon came on as a guest, and he was doing a bit or something, but he was just sitting in one of the chairs at the desk, like just reading a newspaper, trying to act like he wasn't paying attention. And then Gino's girlfriend, Keanu, came in as a guest on the show too. And Pat was like very, I don't know, bitchy to her or so, like just being a dick to her. So Gino got mad at that and had one of Pat's exes a few days later come on the show. And he was talking about Pat with his ex. And that's what made Pat go and punch him in the jaw. He
So
was
I
mad.
heard that Gino wanted to sue, or there was going to be criminal prosecutions. What happened with that? Do you know?
He didn't sue, but there was a court thing, and Pat
Oh,
like couldn't talk to Gino on Zoom, because there were a few times where I had Pat as a guest on my show, and we use a Zoom that's the In Hot Water Zoom, and Pat would be like, "Hey, I went into the Zoom and it says In Hot Water. I can't if Gino's there, I can't do anything. And it was like, no, 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 it's fine. A few times it happened. So Pat was definitely not allowed to talk to Gino or see Gino. I'm not sure why. But yeah, I think it's all finally over now.
Okay. So wait, what other shows were left by the end? He didn't bring over Talib?
Talib has been gone for a while. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, so were those the last two shows left besides the Jameson show?
The only two shows left were Garrett and Steve, because we actually, once Anthony came back, they gave us our own show. We were doing that. And then, yeah, In Hot Water and Chrissy Mayer. So that was another thing. Like, Anthony was paying for this studio and all these producers, and we were Zooming Anthony's show 4 days a week for an hour and a half, doing In Hot Water for 2 hours a day for 4 days a week, Chrissy's show one day, and then Garrett and Steve one day. And then that was
Okay.
it. Like Friday, Saturday, Sunday was empty, and they were paying like two sets of producers, and there really was only one set of shows that people
Yeah.
should have been working on.
Yeah, and I'm sure the rent for that studio wasn't cheap either.
No, yeah, but oh well.
So, I mean, tell me more about the show that you guys are doing, and you know what that's all about.
So yeah, like I said, when Anthony had his heart attack, they were getting replacement hosts to fill in, and eventually we ran out of people that could come in because he was out for a really long time.
Yeah.
So Steve and I started filling in, and we were the only replacement host that people didn't bitch about. You know, Compound fans are known for bitching about everything. You know, that's what people love about them. And they were actually like, oh, these guys are actually good. And I don't accept this compliment at all, but they're like, oh, they're kind of like the old Opie and Anthony,
Okay.
which, you know, no one can stand up to the old Opie. But like that was a compliment from the fans. So when it all went down, we were like, we have some fans at least behind their back. Let's try to get something going. So we just, you know, kind of hang out and bitch about stupid stuff and talk about stupid videos. We try not to do any of like the race-based stuff Compound was known for or anything like that. And we just try to have fun. So join our Patreon.
It's there's very few people that I like hate, like I really hate, and I
Mm-hmm.
really hate Opie. And the reason I hate Opie, for people who don't know, there was this moment where I think they would be walking from one studio to the other, whatever it was, and there was a homeless guy who had a cake. Maybe it was a birthday cake or whatever it was. He's homeless. He's missing his teeth. This is as low. This person is really not doing hot. And Opie jumps on his cake and smashes it and ruins it. And I'm like, you're a horrible human being. Like, and I know he got a lot of heat for it and still does. And for me, if you're gonna do that, you're just like unconscionably evil. But also that you think this is funny. Like there's something fundamentally wrong with you. And just that one moment, it just makes me so angry. Which I guess, is something if it can have that effect on people. I don't think that's what he was going for.
Does it make you feel any better that he gave him money afterwards?
But
Not
did
saying
it
it should, but
that day or like
that
after the
day. Supposedly, after he stomped on the cake, he gave him, I don't know how much money, but he gave him money.
Okay, that actually is a big difference.
Uh-huh.
If it was a window where where there was backlash and he's like, "Oh shit, I better cover my ass." That's what. But I mean, the look on the guy's face and he just says that's not nice, and that like sense of powerlessness, and maybe it just speaks to like my immigrant brain, like when we came over and we didn't have anything, and you kind of
Yeah.
know that you're just absolute a piece of crap in this country, and like you're gonna have to accept that for a minute.
Yeah.
It's just like, as nasty as I am, and as much as I do enjoy bullying certain people, like journalists, like for me, there's a big thick line, and when it's someone who's just like not hurting anybody and has really got nothing going for them, for
Nothing.
this to be
Yeah.
a target to me is just sick.
Uh-huh. But that was kind of Opie's character on the show. Like he was always the make the guest mad or something. Like one time they had Bernie Getz,
Oh
you
wow, okay.
know, the guy who shot people on the subway in New York City in the '70s, and I think got off or
So for people who don't know, Bernie Getz, who in some ways inspired the Joker movie, was some like nebbish. She looked like an accountant. There's no way you'd spot this guy out of a lineup in terms of someone being tough. The subways were so bad in New York up until Giuliani, but especially in the 70s, that there was a group called the Guardian Angels that was founded by Curtis Sliwa, where it's just regular guys would wear these red berets and red jackets to try to keep the subway safe because the police were just absolutely a joke.
yeah,
And Bernie Getz was packing on the subway, and I think he got confronted, and he was finally like, "F this," and he shot I think they were teenagers, weren't they?
yeah,
I think they
yep.
were pretty young, and it was a very divisive moment in New York history because a lot of people were like, "We need more of this," and a lot of people were like, We can't just have be shooting even like muggers on the subway. This is crazy." So
So Opie and Anthony had
well, let's
him
find
on.
out. Let's find out what happened if he got off. I wouldn't have convicted on that jury, although I
Yeah.
wasn't. I mean, it's 1984. He's still alive, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's still alive. So it was 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago. They supposedly tried to rob him. It was four youths, and they all survived. One had brain damage. Um, he was okay. So he was charged with. They tried to get him with everything: attempted murder, assault, reckless endangerment. They found him guilty of one count of carrying an unlicensed firearm. He had to serve 8 months. And then in 96, one of the victims, the paralyzed, brain damaged one, got a 43 million judgment against him. Is he still alive? Yeah, and also, like, he was a racist. Like that fed into it, and they were black.
Hmm.
So they try to kind of gin that up to a certain extent. So in 85, I'm reading the Wikipedia, there was a poll, January 85, 49% of New Yorkers approved, 31% disapproved. And
Wow.
that a special hotline set up by cops to seek information was swamped by calls supporting him and calling him a hero.
Yeah, because I think he shot them and then got off at the next stop, and they didn't know who he was at
Right.
first.
He hid for like 9 days. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, oh wow. Well, yeah. Anyway, so he was on the show.
So he was on the show, and he had started a music career, and he was coming in to promote his new CD or something. So they go to play it or something, and Opie pretends to break the CD in half. He grabs some other CD that was in the studio and was like, "Hey, Bernie, we got your CD," and breaks it. That's the type of guy Opie is. He's just trying to rile the people up, and Bernie like flipped out, and they had to be like, "No, no, no, Bernie." Then it's like, does he have his gun with him? All that
It's
stuff.
fine. Opie's white.
So, the
Yeah, but
long story
Garrett,
short, that's yeah.
there's a big difference between pretending and also this isn't some homeless guy with nothing to his name and this is his cake.
True, true. But like he was always trying to push the limit and get the reaction. I guess that's what I was getting at.
I like again, this is Michael Malice talking. Like, what kind of reaction are you gonna get? Crying? Like, you want to make a homeless guy cry because you took his cake? Like, okay, great.
He wanted to like impress the fans. I'm guessing to like look how mean I could be.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yes, correct. He succeeded. And
Yeah.
am I incorrect that that was like a big moment in the audience turning on him?
I don't think so at the moment. I think later on, like after Anthony got fired from the show and it was him and Norton doing a show, him and Jim Norton, I believe like somehow it got out on Twitter or TikTok or something, and outsiders found it and like started and knew his Opie radio or knew his Twitter handle and started reaching out to him. And that's when it really got bad. And he had to apologize and tell everybody that he gave the guy money and all this stuff. And then 2 years after that, it came up again and new people found out about
Oh
it and
wow,
go
yeah.
after him. Yeah.
It's
So it
like some
wasn't
kind of
at the
Greek
moment.
It's some kind of Greek hell where every couple of years you get the whole thing. You have to like live it in perpetuity.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a friend of mine was telling me how it's the same thing with Tyra Banks. Like back at the time, her show America's Next Top Model was really huge, but
Mhm.
they played all these insane mind games on these like models who were
Yes.
crazy already. I mean, you're starving yourself. You're in this hyper competitive environment.
Mhm.
You're on TV. You're locked in this house. You don't have access to your support network, and they would just do all sorts of like really. I remember vividly one day, like it's the kind of thing where it's like when you look back, it's like, was this real life? I feel like we're doing an episode of the show right now. Is this real life? Where Tyra um, decides to give all the girls a new name, like a super name or their super self. I don't know what the fucking background was, but it's when you think about it, it's like you're gonna just change my name. It's something like a pimp would do. It was just, and I remember specifically there was this black girl, and Tyra says your new name is Brown, and and she was like expected to answer to that. And like you were saying, people are finding these clips and they're like, how are we all okay with this? Because I think it's for the internet. So like if I'm at home or someone's at home looking at this and they're like, oh, that's weird. You just think it's weird. But now like someone could post it on Twitter or Facebook and someone else could be like, yeah, I thought that, it becomes like activated.
But
So I
also
think go
you
ahead.
have to think of the context at the time, like when that was happening. Like society was a little more edgier and stuff, stuff like that.
I don't think
And
she was
now,
being edgy. I think she just like I think it was that we talk a lot of shit as a group, as a community about social media, how bad it is. But one of the good things I think is that when people do crazy things like this, because it's obviously Tyra's show, no one's going to say no to her.
Mhm.
That people could be like, this isn't normal. And then it has consequences for the actual person.
Yeah, but don't you think like at the time it was just seen as like we're doing a reality show, we're trying to be outrageous and
I don't think
get
it was.
views?
I don't think that
Oh,
show was trying to be outrageous. I think she was trying to be empowering.
oh,
And,
okay.
like, there's a lot of, like Twiggy. I think the idea is, like, there's a lot of these models who take a name, like Cher or like
Yeah,
Madonna. Like, you
yeah.
have this one name and you're known as this, and this is an example of you owning your power. Like, you can understand that argument. But then for Tyra to be assigning the names, like, it's not really powerful when some rando bitch is the one telling you what you're gonna answer. It's like when Flavor Flav had Flavor of Love. Like, your name is something, your name is thing 1 and thing 2. It's just like, this isn't normal, guys.
Hi, it's Kellyanne Conway.
And I'm David Plouffe, and we have some surprising news. We're teaming up for a brand new podcast, The Campaign Managers.
I know what you're thinking. Why would Plouffe and Kellyanne do this?
Because frankly, Kellyanne, we disagree on just about every issue, except about what it takes to win a presidential campaign. Kellyanne ran Donald Trump's campaign. I ran Barack Obama's campaign. We understand things like early vote. We understand how to leverage an opportunity and how to play defense when you've made a mistake.
2024 is an election like none other. And David Plouffe and I are going to take you behind the scenes like no one else can.
We're going to lean into our one-of-a-kind experiences, really educate our listeners about what to keep an eye on, and discuss the current strategies and tactics that both campaigns are deploying on the campaign trail.
We're going to disagree, we're going to dissent, but we're going to deliver. You won't want to miss this unique pairing. Join us by listening to The Campaign Managers with Kellyanne Conway and David Plouffe.
The first episode is out May 22nd, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's get back to the show.
Was your friend Adrian Curry on that?
She was on the first season of
Okay.
America's Next Top Model. And what was fascinating about that, I've asked her about this, is one of the things that corporate media does, which is fascinating, if something doesn't fit the narrative, they just pretend it doesn't exist and they don't acknowledge it. And I talked about this in the New Right, how social media can force them to acknowledge things that before they could sweep under the rug. And one example was, I think it was Lay's, who had a contest to name their new flavor of Lay's. And the winning was either Hitler did nothing wrong or Aunt Frank's bones. And they just like shut it down. And they're just, I'm mixing up a couple of situations, but basically the point is, okay, the internet won, right? But before that, they couldn't really do that kind of thing. So it's with America's Next Top Model specifically, there was one season and they had a montage of previous winners, and they just didn't show Adrian. And
Oh,
it
she
was
won?
she won. She won season 1. But then she spoke out against Tyra, so they unpersoned her like she never existed. And with a straight face, they would just talk about past. I'll keep talking because Youre froze. They just talked about past winners, and they just pretended she never existed to begin with. And it was such a corporate construction of reality. It was absolutely fascinating. But I remember seeing that, being like, "What the fuck."
Wow. I didn't know she won.
Oh yeah, and she didn't give any. So they lied. So not only did she not get the money, they said you will have a contract with Wilhelmina, I think it was, and then after it recorded, they had some falling out with Wilhelmina or one of those modeling agencies. I don't remember who, and the audio said now an opportunity for a contract. Well, everyone has an opportunity. You and I have opportunities for a contract with Wilhelmina Models. Like the term is meaningless. So she got nothing out of it.
Wow. They called Gavin in and told her she's getting nothing.
And then when she complained, he said the person who matters the least is talking the most. I gotta tell you, I have a few conversation killers that I like to use, which are really fun with friends, where like you and I'll be talking and I'll just say like, no, you listen. And it just, or I'll ask someone, it's really funny now. My friend Jackie, like if we're on the phone and she'd be like, listen, and I don't even have to say anything, and she catches herself and she's like, oh, kill yourself, Jackie, snap. Like it just triggers her. I have her like Pavlov's dog. Or another one, my friend Andrea, went to high school together. If like I'll ask you a question like, hey Garrett, what time do I got to come in? You're like, oh, about 4:30. I'll be like, who gives a shit? And it's like, just ask me. It's even funnier in text because then it's really confusing. But I think a new one is gonna be if I'm just talking to a friend of mine and just say, looks like the person who matters the least is talking the most.
You're right. It's such a good one and such a funny one to say. Just not to the 5 people you're firing at the moment.
Can you imagine you're at dinner? I'm gonna be using that all the time. Okay, I got to be careful not to use people who are more important than me, who I'm friends with. Or it's even funnier if I say it like if I'm hanging out with Roseanne.
Yeah, that would be even better. You're right.
I was at her house, and I brought my friends, the side surfs, who make those ultra. This is Roseanne. Roseanne has several homes. She has her nut farm in Hawaii. She has her house in LA, and she's got a little house here south of Austin. And it was her son Jake, who's co-host of her podcast, who's good for him and I are good friends. And I need a ride, so I brought my friends, the side surfs, who make those ultra realistic cakes. And I'm introduced them to Roseanne. They're all talking. And she's really into it. She's like, wow, I love cake. I'm like, really, Roseanne? You like cake? She's like, yeah. Like, shut up. It's really great because she's not fat anymore, but you can make all the fat jokes because she's like a famously fat person, and I don't have to feel guilty about it.
So you still haven't learned to drive?
So my other friend, Colin Robb, is a professional like NASCAR driver and what's the term? Speed car? I don't want to say speed car, but like race car, like high end cars, not in terms of money, in terms of performance, high performance cars. Like he tests those out, and he's like won the national or world champion indoor skydiving. Like he's one of these like ultra athlete types, and he's been teaching me. He had an issue with his car. And we were filming it because if I'm going to learn, I want it to be funny. And we just went out in the Cybertruck.
Oh my God!
We rented one out. So the thing with the Cybertruck, and I tweeted Elon. I'm like, am I the first person on Earth learning to drive in a Cybertruck? So there's a couple things with a Cybertruck which people should know about. First of all, there's a Simpsons joke in there because you can change the horn to whatever you want. and one of the options is for it to play La Cucaracha. And that was when Homer designed a car on The Simpsons and ruined his brother's company.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, there should be a horn in every direction. It should all play La Cucaracha. So I'm positive that's a Simpsons joke. The other thing that it has is a megaphone. Thankfully, you can't use it when you're driving, but if the car is parked, it picks up. You don't have to press anything. You press megaphone, and it plays really loud out on the street in a little bit of a distorted voice.
Wow.
Also, there's a light show, and I put this on my Instagram stories. I don't know if it's still up, but basically, you go, okay, get out of the car, close the doors, enjoy the light show, and the doors open and shut, the hood opens and shut, music starts playing, like lights. It's this whole fucking thing. It's really kind of amazing. The thing with the Cybertruck, it's really, really wide, obviously. And as someone who's not used to driving, it was hard for me to get a sense of the proportions of the vehicle. So and this is not my fault, we were driving up a narrow street and I clipped a mirror, and I didn't know that when you're on these narrow streets, you're supposed to hug the median, that there really isn't two lanes, right? So I was trying to get in the right lane. There isn't really a right lane on these narrow streets. But what happened is the mirror for the Cybertruck popped off. It popped right back on, and the other thing didn't even have a scratch on it. So
nice.
It was really great. But I felt safe driving it because I knew if I got in an accident, I'm fine.
Oh, totally.
Like, I'm sorry for your little kid, but I'm fine.
Did you think about putting one of your Margaret Thatcher drops as the car horn?
What do you? Oh, I don't know if you could customize the
Oh, I thought you could put whatever you wanted. Like it.
You know what? I'm sure you can.
MP3,
There's no way you can't. There's no way you can't. You have to be able to. Yeah, if it has La Cucaracha, you have to be able to customize it. Because I think one thing was like, well, I never. Like, it's just there's a few ones in there that are. I like the So I had this big argument because my understanding was the reason more cars don't look like really cool is because of all these weird regulations. But I was told that no, it's just that there's no demand, that when you make them look really weird, only like 100 people are going to buy them. So the cost benefit's not there.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Like every new car just looks like the same, or a big high top sneaker. That's what they kind of look like. They're just all rounded and the same shape.
So I think the Cybertruck's the first vehicle I've seen in a long time that looks different.
Yeah, exactly. Besides like a Lamborghini or a super high end or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was really funny because Elon's Cybertruck was parked outside my house not that long ago, and everyone's like taking pictures. It was really, really. I was there. Like one of the reasons I was like I made the really right decision to be in Austin. There's a picture that went around the internet where it's at the Tesla factory and it's Rogan, Elon, and Jordan Peterson in front of the Cybertruck. I took that photo, and it was such like a holy shit. I'm so glad I'm here.
Yeah. Wow.
And they took us through a tour of the factory, and you knew without a doubt that they're dissecting aliens somewhere in there. Because it's like 3 a.m. and people are working, and I'm like, this I've seen enough of these movies. I watched Alias. I know what they're doing. Like, there's aliens in one of these rooms or something or other.
Is Elon's Cybertruck distinguishable?
No. It's
okay.
No. Okay, folks, head on over to malice.locals.com where Garrett took questions exclusively from supporters. So Garrett, I am I feel bad. I don't like, not in a pity sense, but like I thought I've always said that you were the funniest person on Compound. I hope your show with Steve, does great success. And I also got to tell you why I feel bad, in the sense that I left New York. Like, I remember, like, New York is not. I'm glad you have rent control apartment. Rent wasn't the issue for me, but it was not an environment towards the end for me, and that was 2021. So this is almost 3 years ago, conducive toward mental health.
Correct.
So like, I can't imagine it's gonna be a healthy place till you land back on your feet.
I know. I just don't know what to do. Like, I don't want to move because our apartment, at least for now, is cheap and stuff, but I don't even know where to go or where to apply or anything like that. And I would gladly move out of here, but I just don't, all my stuff's here and Garrett and Steve we're doing that at Steve's house.
Does Steve live in New York as well?
He lives on Staten Island.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I had to go out there.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you is Elon Musk looking for a producer, or maybe
I
put in a word in for Joe Rogan for me? I don't know.
Sorry, Jamie. Pull it up, Garrett.
Like, does Tim Pool, do they have a bunch of producer? You know, like, I don't even know.
You know what? You actually do look at timcast.com. You might be surprised. They might be looking for something. But actually that's not, I don't like, maybe look at some of these podcast networks. I don't know.
I know, but you know, I had such a great job where I was a full-time employee, and most of these podcast people are just like freelance, you know, you pay them to do the show for, you know, and I don't know if I could do that. I would need a real job, I think.
Yeah. Well, at least on the resume you could say Compound Media. You don't have to use Anthony's name, so it sounds innocuous. Oh, this sounds nice. Like maybe they're making some kind of science over there.
Until they Google it once, you know.
Yeah. And, Garrett, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
Your show is like the Joe Rogan for me. Like, I could never wish to be on Joe Rogan, but I could never wish to be on your show. So being on your show is like the peak of my existence. And thank you for making my existence a little bit better, even though now I'm sad.
You are welcome.
It's summertime, and with Pluto TV's Summer of Cinema, the streaming is easy. Stream hundreds of free movies on all your favorite devices all summer long. Chill out poolside with Mission Impossible and Transformers. Or stay cool inside watching Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, Titanic, or The Wolf of Wall Street. No matter your vibe, download the Pluto TV app to spend summer doing what you love. Watching endless movies. Tell me that's not the deal of the summer. Summer of Cinema on Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.